If you like my videos, don't forget to follow me on social media to keep up to date with all the latest news regarding my channel and my content. And most importantly, don't forget to subscribe below or at the end of the video. Alright, g'day guys, we are going to deliver the Avengers Infinity War spoiler review today. Before I deliver my spoiler reviews, I always want to make sure I see the movie for a second time, just to sink it all in, take some notes, and just know what I'm going to be talking about for 20 minutes or so. So I'm heading to the cinemas now to check out Infinity War for a second time, and of course, I've had to bring my mate with me today. He hasn't seen the movie yet, and he's very excited. Are you excited to see it, Iron Man? Yes! Aha! Iron Man will be seeing Infinity War for the first time today. This is going to be very, very exciting for him. To all my new subscribers out there, welcome to the channel. Thank you for subscribing and enjoying my content. This is Iron Man. You'll get to know him. He is a regular staple of the vlogs. He's very annoying, but he's alright. He's a good mate. Let's go see Infinity War. Yes, you're in it. Iron Man's in it. Yes. Alright. Okay, we are here. We're going to go in and we're going to see this movie. Nervous about this. This is the first time I've ever taken Iron Man out in public, and he can be quite embarrassing. So let's see how this goes. Alright, Iron Man, let's do it. You excited? Here we go. Okay, let's do it. Let's get into my Avengers Infinity War spoiler review. Of course, earlier in the week when I saw the movie for a first time, I put together like a normal review, a non-spoiler review kind of thing. I'm going to put a little link up in the top corner there. Also put a hyperlink at the end of the video. Check that out if you want to know some of my more just kind of general thoughts on the movie, what I thought about the style, the tone, what I thought about the story, etc, etc. I'm going to try not to cover the same ground in this one. We're just going to go over some more really in-depth stuff. Let's get really in-depth. Again, obviously, if you haven't watched the movie, I have to put a little disclaimer here, a little bit of a spoiler warning. Don't watch a spoiler review if you haven't seen the movie. So after my second viewing of Avengers Infinity War, I still really love this movie. I still think this movie is absolutely fantastic, and I maybe even love it a little bit more after seeing it this second time, and actually being able to process stuff a bit more, picking up on a lot more stuff that was going on. In my first viewing, it's kind of like so much hits you at once that you there are things that you do miss and things that you don't pick up on. Then the second viewing, you kind of just sit and just relax and take a bit more in. I feel it's always the same with these bigger movies. The movie, of course, is split up into like 3 or 4 different segments all at once, so it's easy to kind of get a little bit confused about what is happening at any given time. Probably the thing that works against this movie the most is the fact that it's not a standalone movie, and I felt that even more in the second viewing, was that it's so layered, so complex, and this story really relies on you having seen at least 50-60% of the other movies to really comprehend what's going on. For me, as a viewer, a 10-year-long viewer of this franchise, this is the ultimate payoff, and I'm sure everyone really will agree with me with that. This is a movie that doesn't cater to people who haven't been there from the beginning and watched all the way through. This is a movie that panders to the fans, it panders to people who have watched all the movies, whether they've been there for the whole 10 years or whether they've picked up on the movies over the last couple of years, it doesn't really matter. But for those of us who have sat sat there from 2008 until now. It's like an ultimate payoff. And to see it converge in such a way is incredible. The first Avengers movie felt huge when that first came out. You know, you were combining like 4 franchises together and mushing them into one movie, and nothing had really ever been done like that before. But this movie, this converges 10 franchises, 19 movies, smushes them all together, and it's just like, it's a feast for the eyes and for the imagination, and again, so much going on. Now, let's talk about what I thought about the different sections of the Avengers. I really loved kind of the pairing of Tony Stark with Doctor Strange. I thought the butting of heads between those two characters was great, and they butt heads from the word go. Doctor Strange calls Tony Stark a douchebag, which I think was great. Tony Stark is really being challenged by someone outside of the main Avengers faction for the very first time, but now you're finally getting some people who are very similar to Tony Stark, and he's butting heads with them. So he's butting heads with Doctor Strange, and he's butting heads a little bit with Star-Lord as well there, in the way that they're both, all three of these characters are egotistical. They are the alpha males of their own sort of quadrants of the galaxy, and they're finally meeting. And I think that is a great testament to the writers to be able to throw characters together that really complement each other. So I thought that was great that Groot and Rocket went off with Thor. These are characters that are all quite funny. So I think Rocket and Thor both kind of really work off each other with the humor in that respect, and Groot as well. And again, Thor and Star-Lord kind of having this egotistical battle of the minds is really great as well. All the characters in these movies are so strong-willed and so strong-headed that when they finally meet up, it's like, it's fire. So I thought the pairings are really great. Throwing Spider-Man in the mix with the greater Avengers team was pretty fantastic as well. Spider-Man gets to spend a little bit more time with Tony Stark, and you can really see Tony taking him under his wing in this one and really grooming him to be the leader of the new Avengers. So sort of after we have Avengers 4, I predict Spider-Man is really going to be the leader of whatever kind of roster we get in the Avengers going forward over maybe the next decade or so. And we can really see that in the movie. I think that's a really wonderful thing to see Peter as a young kid being mentored into a greater role in the franchise. And I think in like a decade's time, it's going to be really rewarding to watch back and see Peter's growth from teenager to almost 30-year-old, probably by the time Tom Holland's out of the series. Team Cap kind of stays the same as it was in Civil War. So when it comes to Captain America, Black Widow, Falcon, Bucky Barnes, we don't have too many new characters thrown in with them. They go to Wakanda, of course, meet with T'Challa and Okoye, and there's nothing really that we haven't seen there before. And I was actually kind of surprised at how little screen time Team Cap had in this movie. But the directors and the producers on this movie have told us that the people who take a back seat in this one will get their moments to shine in the next one. So I'm kind of interested to see how Team Cap, or how Steve Rogers kind of takes the lead role in Avengers 4. The leading role in this one, surprisingly, was actually Doctor Strange. I thought he was kind of the leader of the heroes in this. Even Tony Stark kind of took a step back. I do talk about him being an egotist, but he's grown a lot over the last decade, and that's like I say, it's going to be wonderful to watch Spider-Man grow over a decade. It's been wonderful to watch Tony Stark grow over a decade. He's really becoming more human, he's becoming more humble, and he's realizing that there's a lot more people like him out there in this enormous universe. He's finally seeing how enormous this universe is and how small, how minuscule he is in amongst this whole universe that's out there, and it's really pulling him back a few pegs. I think that's a really beautiful thing to see as well. Also interesting to see no Hawkeye in this movie. Everyone was like, where's Hawkeye in the trailers and the posters? He wasn't there. He's not in the movie. I think that's kind of a good move. Same with Ant-Man. Ant-Man isn't in it. He's off on his own solo adventure in the next Ant-Man movie, which I kind of feel like the timelines are going to cross over. They're going to be concurrent. I kind of feel like maybe at the end of Ant-Man, that's going to end with someone like maybe Hank Pym disappearing into nothingness. Talking about characters that don't get much screen time in this, Hulk, that was surprising to kind of see Hulk take a backseat to Bruce Banner, and Bruce Banner is up front and center in this movie. And again, they are juggling this whole thing between Bruce and the Hulk. Before, it almost felt like it was one and the same character. Bruce becomes Hulk, Hulk becomes Bruce. Now it's a battle between them both. We're really differentiating the fact that there is two characters within this one person, and they're both battling. In the past, Bruce has really wanted to hold the Hulk at bay. He doesn't want the Hulk to come out, but the Hulk wants to come out. And now we've got this flip where Bruce wants the Hulk to come out and the Hulk doesn't want to come out. I think that was kind of ingenious as well. Character who did get more spotlight than I thought as well was Thor. So maybe next to Doctor Strange, Thor was probably like the main character in this as well. I thought Thor was just awesome in this. I've never really been a huge fan of Thor until Ragnarok. And this takes it to another level. He was just absolutely kick ass in this movie. Once he gets that Stormbreaker and he shows up on Wakanda and he just decimates the Black Order's minions, I thought that was insane. I thought that was fantastic. I was just like on the edge of my seat the first time I saw it, and even the second time I was just like, this is awesome. He's really shaping it to be one of my favorite characters. But it's obvious here the main character of Infinity War is Thanos. And Thanos in this movie is so good. He is like almost better, if not better, than the lead heroes in this movie. Thanos is not just a villain of this movie, he's a hero as well. He kind of makes his point in this movie that he wants to eradicate half of humanity to save humanity. He's not wanting to eradicate all of humanity or half of humanity for his own personal gain. He thinks he's doing something right for the rest of humanity. And though he is a jerk and he is mad and he's relentless, and we do think, man, you are just insane wanting to wipe out half the population, somehow this movie manages to put a spotlight on him where you kind of go, I feel sympathetic for you. I never once found myself on his side, but I found myself sympathetic for him. Especially at the end, after he has finally gone through with his plan, and he sits and he watches the sunset as he'd always planned. And you see this look in his eyes, which is like, I'm lonely now. I've gone through with this. I've alienated myself from the people I love. I have killed everyone I love. And now I'm alone. And what's next for Thanos? And I think the Russos really created a really well-rounded villain here. And it does help that he has had 6 years worth of development here. I mean, he's only popped his head in every now and then, but at least this is a character that's had time to breathe, like Loki, and has had time to kind of grow and adapt over the series, in comparison to someone like Killmonger, who they just waste after one movie. Like, Killmonger is someone I would have loved to have seen go over like a whole series of movies, but I wasted him. Characters like Thanos and Loki are the villains we can really find a connection to because we've watched them grow in the same way we've watched Tony Stark grow, or in the same way that we're going to see Spider-Man grow. Moving on from the characters, let's talk a little bit about the tone of this movie. It's so dark, it's so brutal, it's so relentless. I'm going to keep using these same words. From the very opening scene, I was shivering, I was quaking. It was almost like a horror movie. The Black Order, especially Ebony Maw, is so intense. I was frightened. I was actually frightened in that opening sequence the very first time I watched it, especially on the IMAX screen where it's so immersive and it's like in your face. It's crazy, and this movie just snowballs darker and darker and darker and darker until it gets to the very end, and half of the people like die, whether they're actually dead or not, but all these characters disappear, and it's so sad, it's so heartbreaking. And the most heartbreaking thing is Peter Parker grabbing onto Tony and saying, Mr. Stark, I don't want to go, I don't want to go. At that point, there was not a dry eye in the theater. I looked at the people around me, they all had tears going. This series has never gone that dark. And I think it really weighed out the humor in this movie too. We talk about Marvel humor, where a lot of the movies are just so funny, and they focus on being more funny than dark. This movie kind of flips that. There is humor in here, but it's well balanced, and they don't overdo it. They don't do it in moments where it doesn't deserve a laugh, in moments. It doesn't really break up the big, heavy, dramatic moments with laughs in this movie, and I think that was a really great move. What jokes were in there were quite funny, and I think they were more so in there for comedic relief than let's make this scene funny. And I think, though I do usually like Marvel humor, I love Marvel humor, I think this particular movie, that move for the humor was just perfect. Another really heartbreaking moment for me was Vision. Having to watch Vision die twice. And I think Vision is one of the very few characters who died in the movie who may not actually come back. I feel like there needs to be some characters who are brought back, which are maybe the characters who disappeared, but I feel like the characters that had finite death, Gamora, Loki, Heimdall, and Vision, I feel like this series, it needs to have a little bit more weight, more gravitas, and it needs to have stakes. And if this franchise keeps bringing back every dead character, it loses a lot of weight. The deaths lose meaning or resonance, and they just become sad at one moment, but you go, you know what, they're going to come back, and they do come back, and it makes the death meaningless. And I feel like some deaths need to be finite, and I feel like those deaths I just rattled off, I feel like these are deaths that feel more real. As much as I love Gamora, and her death saddened me, and I do want to see her in more movies, I feel like I want her to stay gone because it raises the stakes and it gives Quill more of a grounding in the future movies. And again, this is all about character growth, and this is one of the things that's going to shape Peter Quill in the future. And again, watching Vision die twice just absolutely ripped my heart out, because Vision's one of my favorites. I just think he's a really great character, and having to watch him die twice, very, very heartbreaking for me. I do have a few theories and thoughts on those characters who disappeared. I have done another video on that. If you'd like to check that out, I'm going to put a little link up in the corner there if you'd like to go check it out. Otherwise, I'll put a hyperlink at the end of the video as well for you to go and have a look at my thoughts and theories on what happened to those characters. I personally don't think they did die, and I don't have a problem with most of those coming back. Again, I spoke about this in depth in my original view, so I'm just going to touch on it now. I loved how they kept the tones of sort of each franchise their own. So the Guardians sections really felt like a Guardians movie. They even got their own new song, which is Rubber Band Man by the Spinners. Thought it was a great song to include. Doctor Strange sections feel like a Doctor Strange movie, and I think that was really, really well done. And I love the fact that Marvel brought in all the original directors, or some of the original directors, to oversee those sections and just make sure that the version of the characters in this movie are in line with the versions of the characters in the individual movies. I thought that was really great. Some of my favorite moments in this movie, before I close this video off, Thor making the Stormbreaker. I thought it was awesome. It was such a cool sequence. And then when he shows up on Wakanda again, I was like geeking out. Peter Dinklage was fantastic as like this giant dwarf. It was so cool. Everyone's theorizing who's he gonna be, trying to think of like dwarf characters in the comics, elves. Pip the Troll was like one of the main contenders to be the character, and then they just completely flipped it on its head and made him like this enormous giant. Thought that was just genius, so that was a really great moment as well. The Red Skull, that was so cool. Like, I was actually mind blown when that happened. We've all been waiting for the Red Skull to come back, and he's finally come back, and I think in the best way possible. I want to see more of him in the future. I don't know, does anyone know, was that Hugo Weaving? I don't think it was. It looked like him, but I think it was CGI. It didn't really sound 100% like him, so I'm not too sure, but I thought that was so cool. That whole moment, that whole scene, Thanos throwing Gamora off the cliff, one of the most emotional moments in the entire MCU, and again, why I feel like Gamora's death should stay finite, so that moment just remains one of those most powerful moments in the MCU. So that was a really great scene. And also, what I really loved, it was only such a short little moment, but that moment where the females all fought on Wakanda. You had Black Widow, Okoye, and Scarlett Witch all fighting together against Proxima Midnight, the female of the Black Order. That was awesome. That was such a great little segment. I love the female characters in the Marvel movies, and I think that was just like a cool moment. And I want to see more like female team-ups in these movies. Give me a female team-up movie. What was it, A-Force or something like that? Before we wrap this up, look, the very first time I watched this movie was in IMAX. The second time I viewed it wasn't in IMAX. It was on a smaller screen. Still a big screen, but it was a smaller screen. Do I recommend you seeing this movie in IMAX or regular screen? IMAX, this is the very first movie ever to be filmed entirely in the IMAX format, so for the entire time of the movie, it fills the entire IMAX screen. I think it's such a great immersive experience, and I think, yes, it's worth watching in IMAX at least once. For your first experience, maybe not. I feel like the IMAX experience was fantastic, but it was almost overwhelming at times as well. There's so much going on that it was really easy to miss stuff going on in the background, even stuff happening to the sides. And I didn't realize until my second viewing how much stuff I actually did miss out on. So I would recommend definitely seeing it in IMAX at some point, but just maybe not for the first viewing. I feel like you take in more on a smaller screen. And then your second viewing, go in for the full immersive experience. That will be my thoughts on that. Otherwise, my thoughts on this movie in whole have not changed. In fact, I believe I may love this movie a little bit more than I did on the first viewing. Probably again, because I was able to take in so much more. I feel like I wasn't so emotional this time watching it either. The first experience was like was just like a heartbreaking roller coaster. This time I knew what I was in for and was able to pick up on a lot more and just sort of see the movie as a whole. Again, I loved it. This is absolutely my favorite Marvel movie ever. And that is, again, because it's just such a huge payoff. And this is everything I love about the Marvel Universe rolled up into one ball. I get a Guardians movie, an Iron Man movie, a Captain America movie, a Black Panther movie, a Doctor Strange movie, all rolled up into one ball. It's the best way to celebrate 10 years of the MCU. This is a movie unlike any other movie. It's unprecedented. No other movie has done this before. Such a melding of so many characters and franchises. I just love it. I love it, and it's my favorite movie because of what it means to me as a fan, what it means to the franchise, and what it means to cinema. This movie is just fantastic, and I still stick with my original rating, which is 6 Infinity Stones out of 6. Look guys, thank you for watching this video, and thank you so much for watching all of my Avengers videos over the last couple of days. I'm going to be rolling out quite a few more Marvel and Avengers videos over the next few days, so keep your eye on the channel to check those out if you want to see more. Look, if this happens to be the very first video of mine that you have watched, and you'd like to see some of these other videos I've put together, or you want to see some of the other ones I'm going to upload over the next couple of weeks, then please hit that big old subscribe button at the end of the video. Again guys, thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you all again in the future. Let me know your thoughts on the movie. Did you love it? Did you hate it? What did you love about it? What did you hate about it? Let me know in the comments down below. Look guys, I hope I see you all again soon. Until next time though, take care, and I hope you have an absolutely marvelous day. You're probably wondering, where's Iron Man? You might have wanted his take on the movie. I think he loved it, but he didn't come home. So I don't know where he is.